Hey everybody, I'm Ross. I'm the guy off screen that you can't see right now that is about to give you a demonstration of the Runner synthesizer as if you've never used a synthesizer before in your entire life. Many of you who purchased the Runner have never used a synthesizer before, which I think is super awesome that this is your first machine ever. And I understand that sometimes on the internet, forums can be a little intimidating and people aren't always the nicest in terms of answering your questions and helping you out. So that's why I, as the guy who made this synth on this very table, will walk you through all of the things you need to know about using this synthesizer. So we're going to start from the top. The power supply here in the back is called a 9-volt center negative power supply. You can see at the top of the case over here, there's a little icon over here. The small illustration is to indicate that the center of the power supply is a negative pin. So if in the process of looking for a power supply, you want to make sure that it matches this illustration and it's a 9-volt DC power supply. I'm going to link you to a power supply at the end of this video, but you might actually have something laying around. I don't know if you're a guitarist or something, but it uses the same power supply as a guitar pedal. In addition to the 9-volt DC power supply, inside the box, there's also the ability to hook up a 9-volt battery, which is another option for you. As far as what you plug the Runner into in terms of making sound, the output over here is called a 1/4-inch cable. That can go into a guitar amplifier or with an adapter like this one, which is called an 1/8-inch to 1/4-inch adapter. The Runner can be plugged into a pair of headphones. It can also be plugged into an audio mixer, or it can be plugged into computer speakers if you have those laying around. So now that we've got those two things squared out of the way, I think it probably would make sense to describe what the Runner is and what it does. So what the Runner does do is it creates a droning texture and a droning sound that goes on and on and on and on and on. What the Runner does not do is it does not play melodies. It does not create beats. It doesn't do anything else except droning textures. So if you are interested in creating droning textures, this is a great box to do that. It is catered specifically towards doing that, and all of the controls are made for that. So now I'm going to describe what all of the controls do in the least alien language I can possible and the most accessible. So for starters, all the way up here is the volume knob. So if you want to start at quote-unquote 0 on this unit, you want the knobs in this configuration. You want this all the way down, 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 these two switches off, and this knob all the way up. If you do that, the only thing that will be coming out of the Runner is a steady pitch, which sounds like this. With this switch down, the Runner is in a free running mode, meaning that it's the same as like turning a tuning peg on a guitar string. You're just turning this up and down, and the pitch slides up and down. This mode is useful if you're trying to tune the Runner to something that may or may not be musically relevant, like a specific pitch. If you're looking for a tuned pitch that is perfectly in pitch with a tuner, you flip this switch upwards until there's a little musical note. And what this will do is, instead of free running pitch that goes up and down, it'll break it up into individual notes as if they were individual keys on a keyboard. So if there's a key on your piano or something, you can push it and you can match it to this note. It sounds like this. You'll hear stepping in between all the knobs. Stair steps. Free running. Smooth. Steppy. Okay, so now that you understand what the big pitch knob does, the next knob is called the Harmonics knob. So what this knob does is it basically adds more and more complex texture on top of the one pitch. So as you turn it up, it crossfades between a variety of other pitches that are all relevant to the sub pitch over here. So in the first section, it goes 1 octave below the initial pitch, which is a sub oscillator. Should probably turn this on. So you can hear very slightly a sub pitch coming in. Then you hear a musical fifth, which means it's a second note that's tuned a musical fifth above the root note. Then 1 octave above. So you have, in addition to the main pitch, you have a sub oscillator, a fifth oscillator, and 1 octave above. And then you have 2 octaves above, which gives you 5 total pitches that are all controlled by the same knob. And you can adjust to taste how much you want each of those pitches. So now that you've added all of this harmonic content to the signal, we're going to use something called a filter to carve away the harmonic content. So you can think of a filter, I always describe it to people as the sound of like 90s house music and Daft Punk, or even better yet, funk music from the 70s, where you hear like putting your hands over your mouth. And what a filter does is a filter removes frequencies from a signal. In this case, this specific filter carves away high frequencies, the harsh high frequencies. So as we turn it down, you'll hear the signal get duller. This is opening and closing the filter. Resonance on a filter is basically how extreme the effect is. And what we hear that in our head as is how people use the word wet, because it almost sounds squishy when you turn resonance up. So as you turn the resonance up, you'll hear that the effect will become more extreme. Like wow, wow. Turning it down. Turning it up. If you turn it all the way up, it'll start to whistle. So something I want to mention that I forgot to mention earlier is that the layout of the runner is done in such a way so that each of the sections are divided by a line, basically. So the first section is the pitch section, which determines the pitch. The second section that I just demonstrated for you is the sort of texture section. So that's how you control the color of the sound. We had the harmonics knob, which added a bunch of pitches, and we had the filter over here that I just showed you that carved away some of the harmonic content. So the third row up here, this is called the animation row. So this row is responsible for all of the movement of the sound up and down, which leads me to the next knob, which is the animate knob. Without understanding what the animate knob does, it does control a variety of different things inside of the box. What you can think about it as is it basically controls the speed at which the sound undulates. So as you turn the knob up, it controls the speed and the intensity of the undulation. So in certain settings, you'll notice very subtle shifts. You have to give it time because it's in its slow setting right now. This light corresponds to this knob. Let me turn the pitch down so you can hear it a little better. Very slow, subtle shifting to the sound. And as you turn the speed up, it becomes more noticeable. The range at which the speeds are controlled on this knob is controlled by this range switch. So when this range switch is all the way down, the speeds are slow. And when you flip it up, they become much faster. If you want to know the details of exactly what the animate knob is doing, and what any of these knobs are doing in a more technical level, you can look at the quick start guide that I've made for you and the other videos which demonstrate exactly what's happening on a technical level. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple. So that's the animate knob. This last knob, the animate knob and the range switch. This last switch over here is the chorus switch. And for those of you who have never heard of chorusing before, you can think of it as kind of what happens when you're driving your car really quickly and you hear another car drive past and do the Doppler effect where it goes, eow. So chorusing is a way of controlling that type of sound. Basically what you can do is you can have two sounds that are kind of doing that Doppler effect and dancing in and out of one another in a chorusing-like manner. You can also think of it as like if you've ever put your face in front of a fan and screamed in front of a fan, or maybe you've been on a merry-go-round and screaming and heard your voice go, yeah, 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 yeah. That's chorusing, and it can actually be used for pleasant purposes. So here's what it sounds like. You'll notice the sound will become kind of liquid and squishy and weird. Here it kind of slides in and out. And finally, this last knob up here, gain, controls the overall distortion amount for the signal. So as you turn it up, the signal becomes more abrasive. Here's a little bit of gain. Here's a little more gain. Here's a lot of gain. When you turn that effect up, it also makes the sound louder. So be sure that if you're turning up the gain, you're also turning the volume down. And when you play with all of these parameters together, you have the ability to make some soft and sweet sounds or some really aggressive sounds. So that about sums it up for the runner. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. If I'm in a good mood, I'll answer you. Chances are I won't answer you. But, give it a shot and we'll see how I feel. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.